Hi, folks. Welcome to another edition of Gold Bazan. Today we'll be discussing Iran's upcoming match versus South Korea that'll be happening this August 31st, this Thursday. Very delighted as always to have Pezhman Pars with us, director of the show. Two special guests were on this pod as well. Atbin, okay, you've probably heard of him, in the past pod, and it was a pleasure to have him on. And for the first time being, Stephen Hun was on the pod. Stephen is a fantastic journalist, covers Korean football. His information will be on the pod and everything. Writes for Goal, and it was an absolute pleasure to get his insight about what's happening within the South Korean camp and what's their perception of Iranian football. As always, we appreciate the support. This pod has been done in two segments. So the first segment, it's my talk, speaking to Steven, and the second talk, you'll be hearing Pezhman Pars, and I've been giving their thoughts on the match. As always, enjoy it, and thank you.
Thanks for having me. How are you?
Good, thank you. So, Steve, obviously, as you know, we concentrate on Asian football, but predominantly speaking on Iranian football. Based on this group that pretty much is going to be over soon, was this your initial expectation of how well Iran was going to do, or was this your thoughts on South Korea struggling, which is still mysterious to me? And if you could just tell us about your thoughts on the group and stuff like that.
Well, I think a little bit of both. I think I did expect Iran and Korea to be in the top two places going into the qualifiers. But to be completely honest with you, I did not expect Iran to go undefeated throughout qualifying until they secured their berth at the World Cup, especially the fact that they haven't conceded a goal in the final rounds of qualifying. I did not expect that at all, even though I've already known, from Korea having played Iran, I knew how good of a defensive team that they were. But, even then, going 8 games without conceding a goal is a pretty impressive feat. And, I don't think it's a huge surprise that Korea is behind Iran in terms of the standings. But it is a bit of a surprise to see them struggle as much as they have, because I'll be honest with you, I think they have been lucky to stay in second place in this group, because Uzbekistan, as dangerous as they can be, I think they've also struggled on their own. And Korea have been a little bit fortunate on that aspect. So the fact that Iran and Korea are first and second places in the group right now, that's not a huge surprise for me. But to see Iran do so well, they've definitely exceeded my expectations. Whereas Korea, the fact that they're in second place, I would say that they have met expectations with that fact alone. But seeing how they've played, just the quality of their performance, it's been a surprise, because they've struggled a lot more than I've expected.
And obviously, this match that is coming up, it's a must-win game for South Korea, especially you guys have Uzbekistan next.
Sure.
What is this, situation with the KFA that they're trying to get more people in attendance? Is it just because more fans in South Korea have been, reluctant to watch South Korea, or is this something that is because of Yuli? Because they're trying to set
Sure.
up this game, and do you think that's a possibility that will probably happen?
Well, I talked about this on the other radio show that I work on a weekly basis out in New York. But the during the qualifying rounds for the 2006 World Cup, about 11 years ago, that was Korea coming off of a really just an impressive World Cup campaign in 2002. They averaged for their home games in the qualifying round, they averaged close to 60,000 fans per game, which is a sellout game pretty much every game in the qualifying. But in this particular campaign to qualify for the 2018 World Cup, the average attendance has been somewhere around 30,000. So it's been cut down to half. That speaks as to the popularity of the national team right now, because of how they've struggled over the last 2 years. And for this game, though, this upcoming game against Iran, I heard that up until about a week ago, about 30,000 tickets have already been sold.
Mm-hmm.
So you can expect a much bigger crowd for this game. I think I would expect at least 40 to 50,000 fans at the Seoul World Cup Stadium. It's obviously big, but I do think, I'll be honest with you, at the same time, Korean fans are well, not all of them, but some of them are expecting the worst. Meaning, there's a big chance that they may not win this game, and they could go into Uzbekistan with a situation where they have to win that game away from home. And I believe the last time they won in Uzbekistan was in the late 90s, if I remember correctly. So it's a dire situation, but that's the way it is right now.
And before we want to get into the gist of the match, what are your perceptions of Carlos Queiroz and how? I mean, he's such a notorious figure right now in like the eye of South Koreans.
Right.
How do they view him? And what about yourself?
Yeah, from a general perspective, he has been viewed as a big enemy. I'll be very honest with you on that. But the way I see it, he's a quality manager. I mean, you just look at how Iran have been playing. I know that the preconceived notion whenever Korea plays Iran, in whatever tournament it may be, is that the Iranian players are very prone to time wasting. They're physically tough. They play a roughhouse game sort of. But I mean, the way I see it, Iran, this is a really good defensive team. I tell you that, and they have a really dangerous striker up front who's suspended for this game, right? And but I think Queiroz is an excellent player, and what he did, when was it, for the 2014 World Cup, the final game of the qualifying round in Korea,
right?
The whole bust up that he had with the Korean team. Yeah. I mean, I think it's been blown way out of proportion. To be honest with you, that's my personal opinion. A lot of Koreans will disagree with me on that, but when you look at the other side of that, especially from an Iranian perspective, there were bottles being thrown at the players as well, to Iranian players, and you obviously don't want to see that. Right. So I think it really works both ways. Korea I think they've been mentally challenged by the Iranian team over the last 6-7 years. During the time period when they couldn't beat them at all, and I just think that they got sucked into that mental game. And Queiroz is obviously he's right in the middle of that, and he's been very good with playing the mind games. And another thing is that whenever you listen to his interviews in recent years, he's been very kind about assessing the Korean team. He's been praising our team every chance he's had, and he's even said, I don't know if the translations were correct, but he's even said that Korea has more talented players than Iran, and that their team is more modeled after the European style, so to speak, than Iran is, and the way they prepare for tournaments and things like that is a little bit more advanced than Iran. I don't know if that's true, but the fact that he talks that way to the public, I think that speaks volumes as to what kind of manager that he is. I think he's a coach who's very good tactically, and also out in public, he knows how to play with the media to get into the opposition's head. So, all credit to him, honestly.
No, it is true, because even if you ask any normal Iranian fan, one thing we give a lot of respect to not only South Korea but Japanese players, right, and whatnot, because the majority of the players, they play overseas, in Europe, and some of the top teams, like even one of your top talents right now, Son Heung-min, hopefully I'm not pronouncing it wrong, he's right now basically a superstar for Tottenham off the bench right now, or he had and that's the kind of thing that makes us more fans as Iranian fans, more interested to see how well Carlos Queiroz has done with all the struggles with the politics and with all the top players you guys have, and that's really interesting. But getting to the gist of things, one thing I wanted to ask you, Steve, is like, obviously we know you guys are gonna come full out attacking force, right? Mm-hmm. And obviously I'm pretty sure Carlos Queiroz is gonna have that defensive formation, not as more defensive as he was when we played against South Korea back in 2014, the last match that we nicked it. As a fan yourself, and I don't know about journalists and whatnot, what is the perception? Do you guys honestly feel like there's a chance you guys could defeat Iran? And how, from your own stance, how do you see you trying to approach this match?
Well, I mean, the goal is to win this game. There's no doubt about that, because that they're in a situation where they have to win this game. Obviously, if they lose this game, it's not the end of the world, because they still have a chance to go to Uzbekistan and qualify there. But the goal is to win. But I'll tell you what, the new manager, Shin Tae-yong, he came in and said that for this particular game against Iran, he will play a defensive game and try to nick a goal to win it. That's what he said after he was appointed. And last night, they played a friendly. They played a closed-door exhibition against Suwon Blue Wings, one of the clubs in the Korean top flight, and they lost that game 2-1. But obviously, it was a scrimmage. I don't think you can take the result too seriously. But at the same time, it was a closed-door game, so no one was able to see it. But the word coming out of the camp is that Korea played a very defensive game. And I do think they'll be a little bit more conservative to start the game against Iran next week. Or is it this week? This coming Thursday.
Right.
And I do think you're going to see a more conservative Korea, but at the same time, as the game progresses, if it stays 0-0, I do think they'll open up a little bit and try to get that goal. But, obviously one thing that I'm concerned about is Iran. This is a team that's very good at counterattacking. Right. And when you see the last 4 games when they've beaten Korea, the goals either came from counterattacks or set pieces, right? So I think from a tactical perspective, you'll see a similar style game from the ones you've seen in the past, but you may be able to see a more defensive-minded Korea, which may sound surprising, but I think the manager is trying to approach this game strategically.
And my last question to you is from the public. What are their perceptions of Iranian fans in general or Iranian football in South Korea?
That's an interesting question because Korea. Last time I think Korea beat Iran was at the 2011 Asian Cup.
Yeah.
But that was in extra time, right? And I think the last time Korea beat Iran in a 90-minute regulation game was back in 2005, right? In a friendly in Seoul. So it's been a long time since we've been able to dominate Iran, to be completely honest. And I think during this 4-game losing streak that they've had against Iran, when they lost first 1 or 2 games, or maybe the 3rd game, the perception among the public was that, hey, it was an unlucky game where we just gave up a goal and we couldn't capitalize on our chances, so maybe we couldn't win. But when we lost that game last November in Tehran, even though Korea were a little bit more of an attacking side in that game, I do think a lot of Korean fans realized that, hey, we're up against a really good team here. And I think after that game, when they lost, the perception has changed just a little bit to a point where fans are thinking, hey, this is a really good team, and this may be a team that can go to the World Cup and possibly be the best Asian side at the tournament. So I think the perception is changing a little bit now that Iran have been showing how much they've improved over the last, 5-6 years under Carlos Queiroz.
Right.
So that perception has definitely been changing into a more positive tone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. Steve, the final question I have for you is your prediction.
Mm-hmm.
I personally predicted that Iran was gonna be a draw, but what's your prediction on the match?
I think it'll be very tough for Korea to win because it's interesting because during this past weekend they had the domestic league games scheduled, but they canceled those games for the purposes of assembling the national team a week earlier so that they can prepare for this game. So they've had the domestic players in the Korean league as well as the Korean players in the Chinese league. They've gotten together. They've already trained together for over a week now. But I think a lot of the attacking players for Korea, they play out in Europe, and they will only be able to join the team either tomorrow, on Monday, or Tuesday. So I think in terms of defense, they may have a bit more solidity in terms of just defending Iran and things of that nature. But I think attacking-wise, they haven't had enough time to change a lot, even though the manager has changed. So I do see either 0-0 draw or a 1-1 draw. I do think it'll take something special for Korea to win. I don't know if that's what's going to take is a whole lot of heart and effort or maybe a different strategy, but I think it'll take something special for Korea to win this game. And realistically speaking, I think a draw is sort of a realistic prediction that I can come up with at this point.
Right. Yeah, usually it's a draw or 1-0. I mean, 1-0 pretty much.
Right.
We appreciate you coming on. We're definitely going to have you on post-match for the analysis to review that. Thank you for your time and hope to speak to you soon again after the match.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me. Take care.
Hi, Pasha. Nice to be back.
Pleasure. And then a dear friend of the pod that is going to be definitely a regular, Atbin, is back on the pod, and we appreciate his time. How you doing, Atbin? Looking forward to speaking to you.
I'm good, thanks, mate. How are you doing? Thanks for having me on again.
No, all good. Names for goalkeepers is Alireza Beyranvand, Alireza Hairi, which he's back and he's doing a phenomenal job. And I'm gonna ask Pezhman about him later on. حامد لک. Defenders are جلال حسینی، روزبه چشمی، وریا غفوری، محمد انصاری، سعید آقایی، رامین رضاییان، میلاد محمدی. And our midfielders are وحید امیری، امید نورافکن، مهدی ترابی، سعید عزت‌اللهی، علیرضا جهانبخش، اشکان دژاگه، علی کرمی, and Saman Qudus, a player that has been heavily linked with Team Melli that has finally gotten the call up and he's doing a fantastic job. احسان حاجصفی, and our strikers are مهدی طارمی, Reza Guchanejad, Sardar Azun, and Karim Ansari Fard. Pezhman, starting off with you, based off that list, are you surprised of it? Especially with the Montazeri didn't get the call up as well?
Yeah, I am actually surprised. I expected Montazeri to be one of Queiroz' favorites, and he even can play on two different positions, both as a right back and a center back. So, yeah, I'm surprised. But then again, his team Esteghlal have had a weak performance the last couple of weeks. So, in that case, maybe it's more understandable. But then again, you have a couple of other players from Esteghlal, interesting players such as Ruzbe Cheshmi taking that spot instead of our dear friend Pezhman Montazeri. So maybe it's just a change of player, but same team. But yeah, I'm surprised that Montazeri is missing.
And Adbin, what are your thoughts with this team sheet that is pretty much team list, that Queiroz has released?
Yeah, as Pejman said, I think it's a wee bit surprising, but overall, I'm fairly happy with it personally. I think it's a good squad. It's good to see some new faces, especially as although these are two competitive matches coming up, we do have the room to experiment. Although I mean, we should go into the South Korea match trying to win that, trying to maintain our unbeaten record. What is it? Four wins in a row we've had against them now. But still, it's good. At least against Syria, I'm hoping that he'll give some playing time to the younger players. Maybe it's Cheshmi who has another cap, or throw Qudus in and see what he can do. So overall, I'm happy. But yeah, as Pejman said, Montazeri's absence is a surprise, but we never know. I think perhaps it's just a case of Queiroz has just given one of the younger players his spot because he knows what he can get from Montazeri. He knows he's a stalwart of the team, a reliable player who can play in the right back position as well as centre back.
Pejman, if you could tell the viewers more about the situation. I mean, obviously you interviewed Alireza Haqiqi yourself. He's doing supposedly a phenomenal job right now with his new club in Sweden. If you could tell us a little bit more about his situation, and are you happy that he's back, and do you see him potentially that he could take over Beyrovan's job as Iran's number one starting goalkeeper?
Yeah, Alireza Haqiqi plays in what we can say, maybe the worst team in Allsvenskan, the Swedish top flight. They call AFC Eskilstuna. But in the last couple of weeks, the team and Alireza Haqiqi have been playing really good. You have to remember that Alireza was absent in the first 15 games or something like that. So it's just recently that he's returned due to injury. So when he returned, they have recorded their two first victories, one of them against Malmö FF, which is by far the best Swedish club. They're now leading the league with 13 points or something like that. Yesterday, when he played against Hammarby, he held his first clean sheet in Allsvenskan and was one of the two best players of his team. And the Swedish media is really starting to praise him because he's done really great. I've seen all of his games so far, and I must say that he's back in good shape. It's really nice to see him play again because he's been absent for so long that we have almost forgotten about him. So it's really good to see Alireza Haqiqi back on the field. He seems to be enjoying himself. He seems really focused, and his hard work have earned him a place in the national team. And about the question of Alreza Hariri versus Beiran Vand, today I would actually choose Hariri. It is not just because of 4 or 5 good matches. It's because Beiran Vand hasn't developed much in the last year when he been the number one in Iran. If you saw his last game in the Champions League, he's making the same mistakes with Persepolis that he have done since I started following him. He's a little bit. I don't know if it's cocky would be the right word, or maybe he don't know how to choose when to go out and punch the ball, and if he now wants to punch it, where he wants to punch it. He that was the goal Iran got against Beiramon, Iran versus Montenegro. The Montenegro goal was, in my opinion, Beiramvan's fault, and I also believe that Beiramvan was the reason that Persepolis let in 1 or 2 goals against Al Ahly in the Champions League, because he keeps doing the same mistakes. Hariri doesn't make those kind of mistakes. He's maybe overall a little bit, I wouldn't say weaker, but he still has some developing to do. But all in all, in these 5-6 games Hariri played, he's been under pressure because he plays in a weak team, so they have to defend a lot. And he's good at throwing the ball. He's good at one-on-ones. He's really, really good in the air. Then nobody can threaten there. Although Beiramvan is a tall guy, Hariri is more calm and more safe in the air. So for me today, I would actually choose Hariri.
And just keeping on this topic before I move on, asking Admin about another player that I'm very surprised actually got a call up. Pezhman, if you could tell us more about Salman Godus, that's a player that I know you've been following closely, and supposedly, he sent his team to the Europa League, which is amazing, and there's a lot of hype about him going on, and it's, as we've always been talking about, the left wing spot, or the number 10. We don't have a natural number 10, nor is that left wing spot pretty much up for grabs. Do you potentially see someone grabbing that for himself? And is he a sort of a caterish player that he has a work ethic to track back as a normal winger would in his system?
First of all, starting about the Salman Ghoddos history is really interesting. Like 2 years ago, he played in Superettan, the division under Allsvenskan, in a weak team in Syrianska. And before that, he had some injuries and some major, I would say major, but he had some issues, he had some problems. He wasn't even a name in Swedish football. But when he moved to Östersund, which is a newly promoted team, well, this is their second year only in Allsvenskan, the coach really got out the best of Salman. Salman Ghoddos besides scoring goals, he's a hard-working guy that has a really nice touch with his feet and knows how to advance. He's the kind of player that actually makes his other teammates better players. He was even in the Swedish squad in January when they played a couple of friendlies, and he actually scored a goal there against Ivory Coast. And since then, he have only developed. He's been an important player for his team, Östersund, which is like, if you compare them to like a British team, I would say like Huddersfield. I don't know, a team that you don't even can take seriously, becoming a major threat. But they won the Swedish Cup. They're one of the best teams in Sweden now, and they beat teams like Galatasaray and PAOK Thessaloniki from Greece. Those are big teams, and Östersund is a small team from basically north of Sweden. But about Salman and Team Melli, I do believe that he can play a part in the national team. It would be interesting to see him behind better players. I wouldn't say better, but at least players that are more used to play in a national team, such as Osmoon, Ansoy Fardoev, and Koshanejad, and Tarmi at front. He can score goals, but he also have a good pace, and defensively he's quite strong. He's not that tall. You won't see him score any goals with his head probably, but you will see him work hard, and you will see that he can shoot really hard and really nice. But if he wants to be a part of Team Melli, he have to change club, because the Swedish season is spring and basically summer, autumn. In late September somewhere, the Swedish season ends, and it starts again somewhere in March, April, more or less. So he have nothing to do in 6 months, and that's a typical way to lose your spot in the national team. So you have to choose a European club that plays from now all the way to the World Cup if he wants to be a candidate for the national team. But it would be interesting to see him play. I hope he will play against Korea or at least Syria.
And Pezhman, just a question to follow on. I know I've been wondering about this. Does he, in terms of the versatility of him with regards to the position that he plays, so can he slot in anywhere in the sort of attacking midfield position, whether it's on the wing? I know he's right-footed, so can he play on the left wing? Can he play number 10 in case we need to play him behind Osmoon? Or is he? How flexible is he with his positioning?
He's quite flexible. He's not a typical target player that just like Osmoon, that's really dangerous against the goalkeeper, and when he gets a chance he scores. He's more of those kind of guys that actually works in the goal, and he can come both from the wings, and he can be a part of the build up. And he's young. I think he's 23, 24 years old or something, and he's got time to develop. So he's not just he's quite versatile in my opinion, and I think that we haven't seen the best of him yet, although he has had a really great season, and Swedish media is really praising him, and some people are kind of mad or at least sad that he's not part of the Swedish national team, because he will be a lost cause for Sweden if he gets any minutes against Korea or Syria. But he can be both on the wings and like a number 10 for sure.
I mean, the next question I have for you before we start talking about the specifics of the Korea match is that the player, last time I checked, is pretty much, I mean, yeah, he's not playing for a club again, as Ali Karimi, that, he was out on loan in Croatia for Lokomotiva. Does this give you a sense of maybe how much Queiroz trusts this player that he's calling it back again? Because even with Said Azatolai, even though he wasn't playing and he had issues with his club, he kept getting regularly called up to the national team, and he even was starting and was doing actually a decent job without not even having enough minutes for his club. Do you see that as a potential, that how much maybe Queiroz rates this player?
Yeah, I think you make a good point. It's not very often that you see unattached players in their national team. I think the one recently I can think of is one of the Welsh players during the Euros. I think it might have been Robson Kanu. You saw what he did against Belgium, but he then went to West Brom. But I think with Karimi, we've seen his quality. He hasn't had that much playing time for us, but when he's come on, he's been quite good. He's strong. He's good on the ball. His range of passing is pretty good. But again, it is slightly concerning that a player of this quality, and a player, as you said, that Queiroz obviously trusts, because we have other players in that centre midfield position that he could have given a place in the squad. So obviously Queiroz trusts him and believes in him, and as a result, I do too. Because Queiroz knows what he's doing, and so far he's only led us from strength to strength. So with that, I think he needs, for his own sake, to get a club. I'm sure his agent and and he is working on it. He is good enough to play in Europe, I think, but he just hasn't had that fortune, it seems. But he was good for Lokomotiva as well. And the same goes for Dejaga. He's our squad captain. He's a bit hit and miss sometimes. I feel like sometimes he can disappear in games, but more often than not, when I was quite a critic of him, probably because you know what he can do. He's great on the ball. He's so good at dribbling. He holds the ball up well, even though he's not particularly strong. He's not fast, which is obviously with his age at 31, he's not going to be. But he can dribble past players. He can create. Well, the best thing about him, in fact, is that he creates space for others. He pulls in defenders. He gets the ball. He has two defenders on top of him. That creates space for Osborne, for Tardemi, for Jahan Bach to run into. But again, yeah, I agree with the fact that it must be the case that Queiroz has confidence in the two of them, especially in Karimi. But they need to find themselves a club. We've seen on social media the Jaguars constantly, training and doing what Owen Hargreaves did after he got let go by United, just trying to prove his fitness. But they ultimately, if they don't have a club, at some point, I don't know, by Christmas perhaps, or I mean, ideally they need to get there sooner. I'm not sure they'll be going to the World Cup personally, and I don't know what you guys think about that, but it would be quite silly.
I'm gonna talk about the Korea match now. So I don't know if you guys know this or not, but the Korean Football Association has been promoting the home match against Iran on social media, heavily to get more people involved, because of the lack of attendance they've been having in stadiums and whatnot. With a hashtag, obviously, revenge against Iran, which is really interesting, and it's a must win for them, especially when they have Uzbekistan as the next game as well. Coming off with you, Pezhman, is what are you expecting from this match, and how do you see Queiroz approaching it?
Well, Queiroz told himself that he's out for the game to have a good result and probably to win, or at least not to lose the game. He's not taking these games easily, and because we know that it's hard for him to get to get the whole Iranian squad together, because it's difficult working with the Iranian Football Federation. So it's an opportunity for him to meet the players when they're fit and when they're ready. But I think this will probably be the time where Korea will have the last word against Iran. They have played really weak in the qualifications so far, and they need to step up their game. They have a new coach now, and we don't know anything about this new Korea or at least the Korea with this new coach. For them, a win is much more important than ever, because if they lose, it will be the first time in many years that they will actually not be a part of the World Cup. But then again, we have Iran that don't have any pressure. We have a still good young squad. Not young, but we have a couple of young players that really want to show themselves, and that can be opportunity for them to put in their best performance ever. Because we know with Queiroz that absolutely nobody, is given 100% guarantee that they will play in the World Cup or be a starting player in the World Cup. Not even Hosseini, because we've seen Purale Ganji and Montazeri in the defense before. So the players need to be on their toes if they want to have a starting lineup, starting place, and that's why I think that will be Iran's chance in the game. Otherwise, I believe that Korea might get the upper hand this time, but hopefully I'm wrong.
Atbin?
Yes.
What are your thoughts on this match?
Yeah, no, I think it's interesting. The pressure you from reading in the South Korean media and other outlets, you can really see that the pressure
is building up on the players. The players are, Jason Park even is commenting a lot. The manager has already started with a few mind games, which I think is just pointless because there's no pressure on us whatsoever. I mean, obviously we want to maintain that record of 4 straight wins that we have had against them. But it would be disastrous for them if they didn't qualify. So if they didn't win, or even a draw, it would be very disappointing going into the Uzbekistan match a few days later away against an Uzbekistan team that can be quite challenging, physical. We found, within the second when we played them, it was fairly straightforward. But they have challenged us, especially in the game that we played in September last year. We won 1-0. We didn't create too much, but they need something from this game, because if they go into the next game if they go into the Uzbekistan match with that pressure, you don't know what's going to happen, and Uzbekistan is going to go in with confidence and playing at home, having that advantage in what will ultimately be a very intimidating stadium, which I'm sure they'll sell out. I'm guessing they haven't qualified to the World Cup in the past. Am I right in saying that?
Uzbekistan have never qualified.
No, they have. Yeah, so I guess they've only been independent since the 90s. They need to get something against us. Whether they will do so, I'm not sure. And
the thing is, for me, it's more than a game against Iran and South Korea. It's kind of like Asia's reputation on stakes here, because let's say that South Korea won't qualify and Uzbekistan will qualify. Will take the second spots. What it means that it will be Uzbekistan's first time in World Cup, and I couldn't be happier for them. But I can't really see Uzbekistan giving any team in the world a hard 90 minutes that they will be happy about. Uzbekistan.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, Uzbekistan so far, they still need to take that next step, and I don't know how they will do that. I mean, they have some money, they have some good players, and so, but that step should have been taken now, and it haven't. And although we have a weak South Korea in these qualifications, they still haven't managed to take the second spot. So I would prefer South Korea with their experience and their knowledge to be in the World Cup. But I don't know, the way South Korea played against Iran last time, it was hideous. It wasn't even a fair game, although Iran just won like 1-0, but South Korea didn't have a single opportunity in that game, and that's not the South Korea that we're used to. But maybe it's due to Kerr's good tactics and somewhat the South Korean problems with their new and maybe not so good younger players, the generation change.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, South Korea have been qualifying. They haven't missed out on a World Cup since 1986, so it would be disastrous. They're a respectable team. They have lots of players in Europe and in the Premier League. Well, not lots, but quite a few. And with Son obviously being one of the main guys, they should qualify. And if they don't, it will be it will be very embarrassing for them, and especially as the team taking their place will be an Uzbekistan side who, as you say, it's hard to see them putting up a fight. But then again, we should never write teams off. We saw what, obviously Wales are better. They have someone like Gareth Bale, but you saw what they did in the Euros. You have teams like Costa Rica in the last World Cup, again stronger than Uzbekistan. But I think as a football, from a pure football perspective, you'd like to see them qualifying for the World Cup.
Now I want to get your thoughts on this, being more tactical perspective from Kairos. So you guys remember the last match we played against South Korea back at their home in Seoul. They were trying to beat us not from down the middle, but from width. And as we all know, Milad Mohammadi has just been an absolute tank, spectacular left back for us, and even for his respected club back in Russia. But obviously, we still have an issue at the right back spot, in my eyes, whether that's Ramin or Vuria Ghafuri. Coming back to you, Admin, is that where do you see Iran is going to struggle against South Korea, and how do you see Kairos lining up? Do you see us playing the style we did like 4 years ago, like very much defensive, just trying to nick it, or do you see Kairos potentially letting the players just have a free flowing football and see what happens?
In my opinion, the way we should play, or the way I've seen works for us, when we've played at our best, it's when we've made the best use of our outer field players. So our fullbacks and our wingers. So I was in the start of this round of qualifying when we played Qatar in the first match and then China. I was quite a critic of Rezaian. I thought he's good at going forward. His crossing is good. He's got good pace. He links up well with Jahan Bakhsh and Ezatollah in the centre of the park. But he leaves so much space in behind. Well, he left so much space in behind, and he still does that. But then, as that round of qualifiers progressed, I was happily proven wrong. I think he's great. He's a great threat moving forwards. He's strong. He puts excellent balls in. Him and John Bash can really dominate that right wing. And the same goes for Mohammadi. I think he is defensively better than Rezaian. He's really strong. He's got a low center of gravity. He's fast. He's fairly good. He's not incredible at dribbling, but his pace gets him past players. He tracks back well, which I can't say quite the same for Rezaian. So I think it's a case of bringing those fullbacks in with Taremi, with Can Bakhsh, and getting some good balls in, some good crosses in for Azmoun, who we all know is an excellent finisher with his head. He can rise up against, even though he's only 6 foot, the way he jumps is just incredible. The height that he gets, the way he hangs in the air, is reminiscent of, or not reminiscent, it reminds us of Ronaldo. So it's a case of getting the ball to the wings. But again, we have playing through the middle, we're fairly strong as well. We saw that with the goal we scored, Arsenal scored against South Korea. That was through the middle against Uzbekistan. Again, that was the second goal was on the wing, but the first goal, I believe, was down the middle. So we can play both ways, but I think our strength lies with our wingers and our fullbacks, and the fact that we have a great target man for them to aim at.
Pezhman, what are your thoughts, and how do you see Kairos with his tactical lineup against South Korea?
Well, for starters, I never seem to get starting 11 correct. Even if I think I know Kairos by now, but I always get it wrong. So it's really hard. I think a game against South Korea is actually those kind of games suits Iran quite well, because in my opinion, I think Iran is a better team when they can counterattack, when they can just wait out the opponent instead of being the team that owns the ball. Because Iran, as a team that owns the ball, usually isn't that strong because the tempo, the pace goes down a lot, and the opponents don't have that much of a problem defending. But that's usually against the Arab teams that want to play those kind of games against Iran. Now, South Korea, they want to attack. They want to probably score a goal as soon as possible, and that could be interesting for players such as Mohammadi on the left, or even Rezayan on the right, because they're really good at counterattacks. They're really fast. They throw some. They can make some nice counterattacking passes all the way to a running Azmoun, just being ready for those balls. So I can see Iran taking advantage of the fact that South Korea will be wanting to lead the game. So for me, I'm happy that Iran will be the team not having the most possession, because I think Iran does it better when the stakes are against them.
I'm gonna read. Oh, sorry, Admin. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that I completely agree with Pezhman. He makes a really good point. The fact that South Korea, they have to get something from this game, or they at least have to try to get something. So they will look to attack from the first minute, which is excellent. As Pezhman says, that works in our favour. We have a great defence. We haven't conceded any goals in this round of qualifying, and we didn't concede any goals in 2016, and well, and so far in 2017. So it's good for us in the sense that we can hit them on the counter. We have fast players. We, as Pezhman said, that will suit Mohammadi on the left and Rezayan on the right. They can push forward and run into that space that will ultimately be left behind when the South Korean players lose possession. So if we can sit back, defend well, as we always do, hit them on the counter, get the ball up, I'm confident that we can defend well and then do that.
I'm gonna read out my prediction lineup, and I'm just having trouble because of the number 10 issue, which I'm gonna get your thoughts before we wrap this up. Obviously, in goal, Bayram Van. Right back spot, I believe, is going to be Ramin Rezayan. Our two center backs, Jadol Hosseini and Pour Ali Ganji. Left back, Milad Mohammadi. In the middle, I believe he's definitely going to play Saeed Zatoli Lai and Ehsan Haid Safi. But here it's going to get tricky. Right wing spot, I believe it's going to be Jahan Baksh. But for number 10, I believe that maybe Taremi potentially is going to play off of Azmoun. And then that's going to leave the left wing spot open. What do you think, Pezhman? Do you potentially think that might be it? Or do you see him playing a 4-3-3?
Who did you say on the left? Sorry, Pasha, I missed that. So, Taremi number 10 potentially, and then
I think it's gonna be Torabi, to be honest.
Torabi on the left.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
I am a huge fan of Torabi. I don't think he's had enough time, and enough playing time. Yeah, he's not very defensive. He's not going to track back. But I think he is one-on-one with a player. He is against the defender. He's great. The ball control and the skill and the ability to dribble and get past players. I think he's fantastic. I'd love to see more of him. I'd love to see him start. He hasn't started that much. Taremi's been playing on that left wing, but I can understand why, because he's got a good work rate. He will defend a fair amount. I was again quite a critic of him recently, and then he scored in the last 3 games important goals, all very important goals. So yeah, I would actually be quite happy with that. I think Taremi could play there, number 10, and that's actually that lineup is what I'd like to see as well. I don't think Qudus will start.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What's good about Iran and Kairosh today is that not almost, but almost, no matter what kind of players you have, they know what is expected of them. They know how to play. The system is so rooted into the players that even if it's not Taremi playing, maybe say it's Ansari Fahd, the system won't change. The other players know what to do, and that's really something that we have to get Kairosh credit for. Yeah. But I have a fantasy lineup. I know it won't happen, but this is what I want to see if you want to listen. Beiramand on the bench for starters. So Hariri will take the number 1. I think it's time for Beiramand to get his shit together. So Hariri in the lineup. On the left, you have Milad Mohammadi. In the middle, you have Hosseini and Cheshmi. Hosseini being that old veteran taking care of maybe the future captain of Iran, Ruzbe Cheshmi. On the right, Ramin Rezaian doing the smart thing and moving to Europe. He plays in Ostende in Belgium. They have a terrible start so far, but Ostende is, despite that being 100 times better than all Iranian clubs in terms of professionality and ability to actually progress. So that's the first thing. That's the defense. In the middle, we have a problem there because Said Ezatolahi will get played no matter what. He haven't played a single minute in Russia so far, and that's a big problem. Ali Karimi did a good game last time, but he's clubless. So we have 2 good young players that don't play any regular football. So I don't know. Maybe I would like to see Morteza Pouradiganji there with Ezatolahi, or even Haj Safi probably, so that Ezatolahi and Karimi, they can be substitutes if we want to play a more defensive game if it's needed. But so they have to understand that they need to play. On the right wing, you have Alireza Jahanbakhsh, maybe Iran's best player right now. On the left, I would like to see Karim Ansarifard. I think he's an interesting player that can do good. And number 10, as a joker, I would like to see Salman Ghoddos. Why not? Throw him in at once. I mean, he's played against bigger teams than South Korea, if you can compare with clubs, because Galatasaray is one of the most crazy teams in the world, and he didn't have any problem against them. And up on the front, Azmoun should play there, or why not Qudrat Nejad? One of those two, it doesn't really matter. So that's a fantasy lineup. It won't happen, but I would like to see that against South Korea, or I would like to at least see those players getting playing minutes against South Korea or Syria.
Before we wrap this up, is there anything else you wanted to add to Pezhman's lineup, Atbin?
No, I think it's a good lineup. I'm in the same boat as Pezhman when it comes to Qudus. I would love to see him start. I think I think why not? Why not throw him in, see what he can do against one of the best teams in Asia, South Korea, although they are in pretty dire form. I'd like to see him get started number 10 at the very least against Syria. I'll be quite disappointed if he doesn't start one of these 2 games. Ansarifard, we've seen him play on the left before. He has been he was actually very good. When was it that there was a game when he made an incredible pass from that left wing to, I believe, Osborne, who then scored. I can't remember. It was one of the games in qualifying. But yeah, so he plays well there. Obviously, he's not the fastest, and he's not the best dribbler. Like if we had Torabi, for example. So that's my lineup would be identical to Pezhman's, except I would have Torabi on the left. But I would give Hariri some time, actually, because I think he's as we said earlier on in the pod, he has this confidence and this kind of almost cockiness that any professional needs, and especially a goalkeeper, that confidence to come out, punch the ball, grab the ball in the air. We saw what he did against Argentina a few years ago. We know what he's capable of. So yeah, I wouldn't mind that, because as we said earlier, Beiramand can be a bit hit and miss when he's in the air. Sometimes he's not. He punches the ball, or sometimes it comes out, and it's not always the most confident. But yeah, I think so. Overall, it would be kind of a fusion between your two lineups. But I would like to see Torabi starting a game. I would like to see Kodou starting a game. And I think Ezatala and Karimi is the ideal on paper, the ideal
I agree.
Centre midfield pairing, but they need more time at their clubs. But Ezatala, having not had much playing time for Rostov in the season that's gone, he still performed incredibly well for us. Really, I rate him highly.
That's frustrating in a positive way. That he's the player that's been given most playing time in the national team. More or less, all the players have been rotated, and some players have gone and went, and nobody gets 90 minutes. But Ezad Talay do. So under Queiroz, he's quite safe. But I agree with you, and I also agree with Torabi. He doesn't look like a football player at all, and he's got this funny way to walk and run, but he's quite technical, and it would be fun to see him in Europe.
Yeah, if he goes absolutely agreed. He's one of those. Personally, I will have ultimately a little bit of bias towards him because I love that sort of tricky, skillful player, a bit like Draxler or Mahrez or obviously Neymar. And he is that type of player who can one-on-one. You back him against the defenders. So, but he needs more playing time for Team Melli, and he needs to leave Iran and see what he can do, and just take that leap of faith like Kaveh Rezai did, and we know what has happened to him again. I'm not surprised he's not in the squad because he hasn't played that much, and we have some great strikers. But I think he'll be there or thereabouts. But that's
but then again, doesn't he have Ali Dahi as coach in Stoipa?
He does.
That's not bad. Ali Dahi, you have to give it to him. He's good with the young players. Torabi isn't that young anymore, but he knows how to get the best of some of the players. And I think Torabi is one of those players that's typically made for a Dahi progress.
And before we wrap it up, just one more other thing I do want to say that I personally have been waiting for, which still hasn't happened, is when I was looking at this again, I was thinking about, okay, if you had to frustrate South Korea, you don't want to be more compact, be more controlling, you're not encountering them. Do you guys potentially see that Queiroz as an experimental wise, maybe for some miraculous reason against South Korea, that he could potentially play Ali Karimi, Said Ezatolai, and Ehsan Haitsavi as a midfield three? Admin?
You make a fair point. I think if I break up my response to that question in two ways, I think with regards to the experimental side of the game, I think it's actually I haven't thought about that before. So you made a really good point. We're going to go into this World Cup, and there will be teams that are on paper better than us. So like Argentina in the last World Cup, were team matches where we're going to just sit back and defend for our lives, try to hit back on the counter. And this is a game we're going into where we know that South Korea are going to be pressing and just constantly trying to attack. So I think it's a really good opportunity to, as you said, frustrate the opponent, stay compact, maybe play narrow, and just defend and get some practice in for ultimately what's going to happen in the World Cup. In at least one or two of the games, we're going to be against teams that are on paper much better. With regards to the three-man midfield, that's something that I've thought about in the past, that we can, because we have really good wingers and we have a great striker, well, several great strikers, but Osman in particular, so a spearhead of three going forward who stay a bit forwards a bit more and don't track back as much as they used to with a three-man midfield. It would be quite interesting to see whether that will happen. I don't know how it would work. I don't know, because Haj Safi, obviously, he's who would play in that kind of, if would it be a flat front midfield three? Would it be kind of a triangle with someone coming forward a bit? Who would be there within kind of just behind what would be a classic number 10? Could Karimi play there? Perhaps Haj Safi, maybe, I'm not sure. But yeah, no, it's a very interesting question, and it's something that I'm sure Queiroz has thought about, because the 4-2-3-1, we've been playing that a lot. Before that, it was 4-2 or even 4-5-1. So changing to 4-3-3 could be interesting.
Pezhman?
I agree, it was interesting idea, and I'm fond of that. Queiroz being the surprise guy that he is, he will probably play like Aghaei and Nurafkan, the player that we haven't even mentioned today. So you never know. I mean, why not? I even believe that Kafuri might play instead of Rezaian, because Kafuri is more of a defensive player than Rezaian, so that's better suited against a team like South Korea. So, why not?
So before we're gonna wrap this up, I just want to get your predictions. Atbin, what do you think is gonna happen? Your scoreline prediction for Iran versus South Korea?
It's a difficult one because, as always with predictions, it's a fight between my head and my heart. My heart is telling me we'll win 1-0. My head is telling me we'll draw 1-1. But I don't think we'll lose. I don't think they'll get the 3 points. I think we are defensively too strong, and we also have great going forward. So if we can ultimately, we'll get 1 or 2 chances. If we can score those, which in the past we've not always taken our chances, even though we've won most of our games, we haven't taken all of our chances. We can take our chances. I can see us getting at least a point, perhaps 3, but I don't think we'll lose. So it's not the best answer, but that's my prediction or my thoughts.
Pezhman?
Well, in the beginning, I said that Korea would win, but now I'm just going to say Iran will take it 3-0 because it's time for me to get my predictions wrong.
All right.
Well, I hope you're right.
Yeah. Well, really appreciate it. It was always a pleasure to talk about footy with you guys, especially with Iran. Hopefully, it will be an interesting match, and hopefully Iran will get a good result. And appreciate the time as always.
That's great.
Thank you, Pasha. Thank you.
Great to be on the podcast.
And for the viewers,
thank you, chaps.
We've gotten this question many times. You can find us on Twitter. We have a Facebook page. We're going to be making a website soon. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, Google Play, and other outlets. Just type in Gold Bazan and subscribe to us wherever you're a part of the world. Appreciate it, and as always, go Team Melli. Thank you.